Okay. Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to see you all today. We have a series of these events that we'll do this term. So the Palestine Interdisciplinary Dialogues was started last year. This is our effort to normalize conversation of Palestine, which has often been a stigmatized topic in our environments. And so this is the Palestine Interdisciplinary Dialogue first reason to exist is to fight the erasure of Palestinians from public spaces. It has been incredibly successful. We had 6 events last year. Our June event was attended by 100 people, not also outside the university. So we're really proud of the work we've done. But you know, we need to continue to work. We have 4 events already lined up for this term. This is the first one. The second one, which I really recommend everyone to join, is the launch of a book by my colleague, edited by my colleagues Zahid and Jake. What is Jake? Jake over there. Sorry, I'm blind. I'm aging, by the way. So that's a launch of a book. We are still here, which is a book that contains the stories of many students of Gaza who are still studying, passing exam despite the genocide. And I had the pleasure to read the application for our 2 grants of many students. And I can tell you that I was reading these applications in tears. I teach leadership, and I have never read anything more inspiring than the words of these young people in Gaza. So the talent that Palestine holds is incomparable, and the struggle is making us even stronger. Palestinians are superhumans. This is what I need to say. Anyway, today we are speaking about erasure, and we are speaking about erasure in a particular way. We are speaking about the erasure of Palestinians and Palestinian archives and Palestinian knowledge. I study silencing quite a lot in these days. And here we have the silencing of an entire population, but mostly a silencing of a way of knowing, and a silencing of an epistemology, which is the Palestinian epistemology, which is the way in which we can look at the world and understand the world through the eyes of those that have been occupied for 75 years and have just undergone 2 years of genocide. And the clarity with which Palestinians see the world is a light, is a ray of light. And it's important to maintain the memory and that knowledge. And I think archiving is one of these, of the fundamental functions that actually maintain that memory, the memory that wants to be cancelled. I'm gonna do a little bit of an introduction of myself, so that as a person that has been erased in several ways. First of all, my father in 1967 was exiled. He was a student at the University of Padua in Italy. And in 1967, after this 6 Days War, he was exiled. I've gone back to see how he was exiled. And it was a little cross that my grandfather placed on his census document when he said that his son was studying abroad. That was it. Ticking that box was enough to prevent my father from ever returning back to Palestine, and he was 25. So you can imagine the trauma, but the trauma of Palestinians, the trauma that my father underwent is clearly incredibly small compared to the trauma in which some families in Gaza are going now. But I just wanted to say in his honor, this happens to me every time, so I'm sorry. that I am the daughter of Adnan Jasser, who's the son of Wadi Jasser, who's the son of Jarius Jasser, who's the son of Hannah Jasser, who's the son of Andros Jasser, who's the son of Ghanem Jasser, who's the son of Jasser. And the reason why I'm saying this is because we have 200 years of memory in our family on living on the land. And this is exactly what they're trying to erase from us. Hey, Mimi. I also want to read a little article that our colleague Mesna Kato in Cambridge wrote on the New Statesman, just to give a bit of a sense of how clinical the process of erasure is that Israel is perpetuating. Since the beginning of the genocide, nearly every library, archive, and cultural center of institution in Gaza has been destroyed or severely damaged by Israeli bombardment, firebombing, and looting. A thick residual concrete dust now covers books lining the shelves of the Gaza Municipality Library after the roof was polarized by a missile in November 2024. The Great Omari Mosque, which housed the Islamic Manuscript Library, one of the most important archives in Palestine, with artifacts from the 14th century, was destroyed in December. The Israeli military detonated the last remaining university building in Gaza in January. Please. Every ministerial archive has been destroyed. Abdul Latif Zaki Abu Hazram is one of the last surviving historians in Gaza. So they've killed the academics, they have destroyed the archives. So the destruction of memory is incredibly, incredibly surgical. This is only talking about, according to the librarians and archivists with Palestine's preliminary report, public and private collections, the library fared no better. Municipal libraries in Beit Lahia, Beit Hanun, Rafah, and Khan Yunis are all gone. So too are the Samin Mansour Bookshop and Library, Diana Tamari Sabah Library in the Rashad Al-Shawa Cultural Center, and the Photo Khargam collection. So they're destroying everything. You can understand now how archiving is such an important activity. And this is all I wanted to do. I am not an archive specialist, I'm just Palestinian. But for us, archiving is resistance to this erasure. And I want to speak about another way of erasure. And I'm speaking about this particularly because I know that some of our panelists will speak about social media archiving. And a way of erasing Palestinians is also about censoring their voices. It's about shutting them down when they say something on social media. It's about making their words shameful by calling them terrorists and anti-Semitic every time they speak on social media. Of course, this has happened to me like hundreds of times, right? Trolls. So, that's another way of erasing us, is really making every social space so difficult to enter that we withdraw. And you can understand why then I'm here by enunciating all my grandfathers and wearing my jacket. We need to resist this erasure in every possible way we can. It's a must, it's our duty. We cannot live in any other ways, because if we stop, we cease to exist. It's very simple for us. Anyway, I've spoken too much. This is not about all this. This is about our wonderful speakers who are coming from Beirut. I think I have Rada online. I'm going to introduce Rada last, actually, because then maybe she's going to be the first one to speak, right? So that's, but I'm going to introduce our other two speakers that we have here. We have Freja Howat. Thank you so much, Freja, for joining us. Freja is a Chase Doctoral Researcher and PhD candidate at University of Sussex. She works on contemporary developments in Palestinian heritage and archiving. She has worked as a data analyst for the Accountability Archive and has held roles in collections management and archiving projects across Palestine, Jordan, and the UK. And I'm incredibly interested in what she has to say, because she looks at archiving in a different, novel way. So thank you so much, Freja, for joining us. We have then Alex Foley. He's the head of operation and the co-founder of the Accountability Archives, and he's going to say much more about it. But Accountability Archives is an incredible project that really archives genocidal material, especially from social media, and also the censorship I was speaking about and the incitement to genocide that we see. So I really hope that one day the Archive for Accountability will work very closely with the International Court of Justice. Alex is also a writer and a painter, and is also a PhD in molecular biology. He's an incredibly eclectic person. And also he is the head of communication for Tawan, the welfare, which is the Palestinian humanitarian organization. They're currently working on preserving fragile digital materials related to mass death atrocities in the MENA region. So thank you so much, Alex, for all the work you do and for being here. And lastly, I would like to introduce Ghada, that we need to show in some shape or form. Thank you so much, James. Okay, here is Ghada. Thank you so much, Ghada, for being with us. Ghada Dimashq, Dr. Ghada Dimashq is an experienced archivist and metadata librarian specializing in Middle Eastern heritage with a focus on preserving and documenting the cultural heritage of Lebanon and Palestine. Current Arabic resources specialist in research and instruction services at the Jaffet Library at the American University of Beirut. Thank you so much, and let's give our panelists an applause to start with. So each panelist will now speak for like 20 minutes, and then we can have a Q&A.
Hello, everyone.
Spotlight. Right.
The light has gone off now on your side.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Can hear you and just about see you.
Yes, I'm sorry about the light. I'm talking from Lebanon and the electricity just went. Oh, now it's back.
Your computer has got battery.
Yeah, it does. So, hello, everyone. Thank you so much for the introduction. And it's a great pleasure to be with you today and talk about our project, the Fighting Erasure project. Can you see my PowerPoint?
Yes, you might want to put it in show mode.
Okay. Okay, so the Fighting Erasure project it has launched since October 2023, directly after the start of the war on Gaza, and when we started this project, the main purpose is the aim of this project was to resist cultural destruction through documentation, preservation, and education and advocacy. The project is co-led by Dr. Rami Zre, and he's a professor at the American University of Beirut, and Dr. Hanin Shhade, a professor at the New York Abu Dhabi University, and Dr. Jamila Ghaddar, a professor at Amsterdam University. And as we said, the project's main goal is to fight erasure against Palestinians and Lebanese as well. The Fighting Erasure contains 7 sub-projects. I'm going to talk quickly and briefly about the sub-projects of the Fighting Erasure and focus more about the archiving of the social media. The first project is the Palestine seminar series. And this seminar series have started also at the beginning of the war in Gaza, and it is found all the webinars are posted on the Fighting Erasure website. If anyone would like to see the videos. And the second project is the archiving Gaza's genocide and the war on Lebanon. And we also have the Fighting Erasure website and the digital storytelling for liberation and return. And this will also talk briefly after talking about the archiving genocide. And we also have two projects are related to the environment footprint. One related to Gaza and related to the expansion of settlements in Palestine in general, and the impact of weapons used in Gaza and in Lebanon, and the impact on the environments of these weapons. And the sub-project number 6 is about creating international standards for archival standards, and how we adapt these international standards to be in align with our identity, to be aligned with to take into consideration the Arabic language, and more importantly is to create unauthorized terms that we can use in cataloging and in archiving that represent our narrative, represent our story. Because as we know, even in cataloging, even in archiving, the international terms that are being used are also biased terms that does not represent the Palestinians or the Lebanese narrative. And last, is one of the most important projects that we are aiming to achieve is to create a digital infrastructure that contains the Palestinians' archive and to preserve it for the long term. And this digital platforms allows all institutions who works on collecting and preserving and have archives, Palestinian archives, to be part of this platform. It is called the GLAM sector, which allows libraries, archives institutions, museums, even galleries to be part of this platform. So now regarding the social media archive, as I said, since the war started in Gaza, the first question came to us after we have started to see on news that Meta is trying to block down accounts posting about the war in Gaza. We started to hear about this fight, let's say, between the Palestinians and the Meta and these companies that's trying to oppress the Palestinians' voices on social media. As we all know, for a long time, Western media was controlling the narrative, and it was controlling the Palestinians' narrative in particular. So they decide what to show to the people, they decide what to hide. After the war in Gaza, it was unexpected that the Palestinians started to post about the aggression, about the war on social media. And the videos that went there went viral. And these posts and these videos, these images that we have seen, the whole world was seeing for the first time, had a great impact on the public opinion. And this led to protests everywhere. It's led to the intifada, students' intifada in the universities. And we have started to see the impact of the social media on the public opinion, global public opinion. And then we have asked ourselves, what should we do? We need, since Meta is doing all their best to remove what's being posted about Gaza on social media. And we have started to see, like, Eye on Palestine, it's the one of most important platforms that they post daily about the war in Gaza, being cut down for several times. And I've called Dr. Jamila Ghaddar and I asked her, and how can we start archiving social media in a way that we're able to collect as much as we can, because there's a huge data being posted daily about the war in Gaza that led even to Meta unable to control what's being posted anymore from the huge amount of pictures and videos being posted daily. And then we started to set up the tools. For Telegram, we have a specific tool. For Facebook, for Instagram, even for WhatsApp, we were able to collect the news group channels, to collect what's being posted on YouTube also. And then, with the escalation of the war, the range of what we were collecting has started to grow more and more. At the beginning, we were collecting only data from, we were archiving the journalists from Gaza, what they were posting on their accounts. And then we have started to see different shapes of documenting, let's say, or engagement, let's say, with the war with Gaza. We've started to see people are documenting the war in Gaza through art, through literature, through poems, through dark comedy, and this led us also to start and track how people are interacting with specific event, and especially the events that went viral, and we started to archive these posts and accounts. So one of the things that it is really interesting, and it shows us how important it is to archive the social media platforms, is that when Israel tried to train an AI bot, and the purpose of this AI bot is to convince the people or the public opinion with the Israeli narrative. What happened is that this AI bot turned over them, and the AI bot started accusing Israel with genocide, and they started to ask people to donate for Gaza and to save the children in Gaza and to free Palestine. And the reason behind this is the huge amount of posts that were being posted on social media led to the AI bot not to be able to defend the Israeli narrative anymore. Because when the AI goes to the internet and start to collect evidence to prove the narrative that he wants to prove public opinion with, he couldn't find the evidence, he found the opposite. And this is also another reason that we see now Israel has been paying millions of dollars to re-engineer the artificial intelligence tools in order to also again convince the public opinion, especially the teenagers, and with the Israeli narratives. I don't know why they are targeting the teenagers in particular, but this is what's said in the news, what we have read and published. And also another weird things that I have been experiencing the last week is that some topics or some stories that I have archived, I was trying to search on Google and to try to find the post or the image or the video, and I wasn't able to find it. And also, when I started to read about this, also I have read that Israel also paid for Google to hide any stories or any topic regarding Gaza war. The only way that you can access these stories is when you have the link that will take you directly to it, but not through indexing, Google indexing. I'm going to show you some of the data that we have collected. In Fighting Erasure project, we have collected around 16 terabytes data, and now we are moving forward and updating the accounts that we have archived and archiving a new accounts. And what we archived, as I said, we tried to archive and collect everything related to Gaza war, every aspects of this war, cultural, social, educational, health sector. We tried to collect the videos of bombardment. And because it is very important for researchers to see and study the weapons that are being used in this war. And here we have two images, one from Gaza and one from Lebanon, and we can see the similarity between the type of weapons that were being used in both countries. And this is also another picture that shows the destruction of cultural or historical villages, historical sites in some villages, and the phosphoric weapon that they were used on land, and that has a bad impact on environment and especially on trees and the soil and etc. And this is also some pictures that we collected from social media that shows the scale of destruction and how people are reacting after going back to their land, to their houses. And we see that the man on horse and the man who's holding the Lebanese flag. This is some pictures from Gaza also, and here we can see the similarity also in a way between Lebanon and Gaza and the way of destruction. We have collected the massacres. We have collected the names of people who were killed both in Lebanon and in Gaza. In Gaza, it was a little bit hard to have the whole names, but we were able every time that new names were published to collect and track. We also collected we collected data about the destruction of hospitals, destructions of educational sector and of schools and universities, and even more the universities that have special archives, special libraries that contains let's say rare books, manuscripts, or museums. This were also tracked and archived. We also tried to archive and collect the names of the health sector workers who were killed in this war, and even the workers in the educational sector, students, professors who were also killed in this war. And this is an image from Lebanon, and here we can see that Israel targeted one of the oldest castles in Lebanon, a historical one. And here we have some pictures also from Gaza. We have seen the destruction of archives and libraries, and here we have the image of the Israeli soldier who set fire on the Al-Aqsa Library University. Again, here we have some pictures from Lebanon that shows the destruction also of libraries. And we have, for example, this is in the middle, the home and library studio and paintings of the artist Abdel Hamid Baalbaki. He lost everything. He lost all his paintings. He lost his library that includes rare books, rare manuscripts, and documents that he inherited from his family. And this is on the left at the end, we have what remained. This was the latest edition or the last edition of the book of Al-Zubdatul Al-Faqihiyya. And now there's no other edition from it in the world anymore. It was gone in this war. We wanted also to collect videos. For example, here is so this is a video that shows how Israeli soldiers are destroying historical sites or historical valuable things in Lebanon. This is also another video. It's in Arabic. I'm gonna mute it, but here is gonna show you how two historians. One of them, he went back to his house in southern Lebanon, and he was talking about the huge library he had in his house, and he lost it. He lost around 4,000 books, along to documents, political documents, and documents that historical documents that he also inherited from his family. Here also another videos that shows people returning back to their houses, and this, in particular those who have libraries and archives in their houses, to show how these got destroyed. This is also a collection of pictures showing that the historical sites that have been destroyed in Lebanon. And this is in Gaza, historical sites that have been destroyed in Gaza. And here we can see the pictures of Israeli soldiers looting historical items from Gaza. And this is what I was talking about, how people started to react with and engage with the war with Gaza. Some incidents like the old lady that got attacked with the Israeli soldiers' dogs. And people turned this into animation, and people turned it also into an art. And we have seen Hind Rajab also a story. We have seen the little boy Yusuf, indigenous people that are relating their story to to Gaza, and as if it is like Gaza war have made them recall what they have been through previously. Again, these are some videos that people have shared on social media, and then here we started to collect these videos. For example, this is the first video is about a little girl. She's 17 years old, and she's a football player. And she got targeted, and she went into coma for a long time. She woke up recently, and she still didn't recover well. And this is, for example, a video of an old man sitting in his house. And here we can see that this old man, when his area got bombed, he didn't move. And this video went viral in Lebanon and outside Lebanon, because the way he still sat without, he didn't even to talk about, also about showing, for example, video after they come back. And here we can see that people are cleaning their houses, that they got affected with the destruction. Also, this type of videos were being collected and archived. And here also we were trying to track and collect the people when they left South Lebanon and went towards Beirut, and they stayed for a long time. Minimum they stayed for around 15 to 20 hours till they were able to arrive to Beirut after they fled from the south of Lebanon. And this is a very touchy story. It's at the beginning when the people started leaving south of Lebanon and going to Beirut. This old man held this paper and he said, "You will be back to south and your head will be up." And after 60 days of the war, when the people returned back to south, this woman raised this paper and she said, "Tell the man we went back and our head is up." And also here is some videos that showing also the people after they came back to their houses, and they started filming how here, for example, the animals. And in a comedian way, he said that I have a lot of customers waiting for me. And when he entered the shop, there was dogs and sheep were hiding in his shop due to the bombardment. Here also a story of a doctor, a Lebanese doctor, that out of sudden she saw that her house got bombed in south of Lebanon, and she saw that the Israelis are playing piano and mocking inside her house, playing on her piano, and then she posted a video for her playing on her piano, how her house was and how it became after they have destroyed it. And we can see this. And this is also one of the videos that went viral. And we have seen how this also been documented in an art and showing her destroyed house and this doctor sitting on her piano playing on it. This is also another video for people who were playing violin above the rubble. And this is the dark comedy, and we have seen that it went also viral. We have seen a lot of videos. For example, this in a building, they put a paper, "Please keep the door open because if Israeli targeted our neighborhood, the glass won't fall down." And they were mocking this. And if a rocket fall down, the whole building will go, not just the glasses. So this is how people started to react in a comedian way with specific incident. For example, this man. And he was screaming on his daughter in a funny way, where are you? Why you didn't come back home yet? And then he returned to her and he's telling her, go back home. And he looked at his house and it is gone. I said, our house is gone. So this is also one of the videos that went viral, and people start sharing it in a very wide way. And this is also the media and how the media was reacting. For example, this is one of the videos that went viral that shows how the landowners react and how the occupiers react when bombardments happen. And this is also one of the images that went viral. It's about the Israeli historian who went to Lebanon and he got killed in Lebanon. And this is also shows us how they are using the land to recreate a specific narrative that they can tell to the whole world, to convince that Lebanon also is a land of Israel and it's part of their greater vision. And this is also one of the videos that also went viral. This is an Israeli father who is reading a book for his son about Lebanon. And he's telling him that Lebanon is a part of Israel. And one day we will go back and take it and it will be part of us. And this man also, after the ceasefire, they came to the south of Lebanon, a group of settlers, and of course, accompanied with the Israeli soldiers. Also, they came to Lebanon. It's like I think it's like kind of a message to prove that, or message for the Lebanese that this land is theirs and they will take it one day. So This is briefly, not briefly, but this is samples of what we have collected both from Gaza war and Lebanon war. And I want here to show you that the tools that we were using an open source tools that allows us to give the tool the account, and this tool start to collect the whole data, not in a manual way. We cannot do screenshots or save each single video by itself. And we can see in the middle the folders of the names of the accounts that we have collected. And at the end, it's the metadata and the media for each post being posted in a specific account. And this is, for example, the media, and here is how the metadata is being collected. And this is also another example of the Telegram and how it is helpful for the user to researchers to revisit and to see in every single day, specific date, what have been posted. And the other project that, do I still have time or I'm running out of time?
Yeah, just so everyone has got time to speak and we have time for Q&A. If you want to finish shortly, so then we can also.
Okay. So
but this is super interesting, by the way. I don't you to think that, yes.
Yeah. So I'm gonna end quickly. This is the Fighting Erasure website that also is how to represent the data we have collected in a specific website, and it's gonna be launched soon in November. And the digital story is how to recreate the stories of the families that were killed in the war and erased from the family registers, and to recreate their stories and their relation to the land. And this is finally, as I said, the digital infrastructure, the digital platform that we aim to create that allows for the Palestinians institutions to unite under one platform umbrella. And thank you for your listening.
Thank you so much, Rada, for your wonderful testimony and the richness of what you showed us. Really, really appreciative. We're gonna keep the Q&A for the end. What would you say? Freya, please.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Freya. I'm a Chase doctoral researcher. I'm working on Palestinian archiving, mostly looking at community archives. The picture that you see here is actually a postcard that I picked up from one of the community archives I've been working quite closely with. It says "not leaving" in Arabic. They're based in Sheikh Jarrah. I don't know if people are familiar with the. Yeah, yeah, it's in East Jerusalem. So, okay. Since okay, I don't really know where to start. I'm not very good necessarily at talking in academic environments, so I'm apologizing in advance. I find it hard to find the right words, even in ordinary circumstances, and I think, yeah, language at the moment feels pretty insufficient. Because this genocide, it's it's targeting Palestinian lives. It's also, as we were talking about a bit earlier, actively, deliberately destroying Palestinian educational, cultural, and historical infrastructures, epistemologies. It's an erasure that's unfolding in real time. And scholars and human rights organizations have described this as epistemicide and scholasticide, which is the deliberate erasure of systems which a society learns, remembers, and imagines. And it's a violence that not only is of the present, but it's reaching into the future. In response, digital archives, oral histories, and collections maintained under occupation and in exile have become increasingly vital. And these efforts are not replacements for what has been lost, but decentralized diasporic acts of resistance that push back against the logic of erasure. And this presentation begins from that point of refusal. Importantly, these attacks on Palestinian knowledge systems are not new. They form part of a longer settler colonial trajectory, which has long forcefully displaced Palestinians, but also has displaced and destroyed and stolen their cultural materials. And in this context, archives have become central to Palestinian cultural and scholarly work, raising important questions around what gets preserved and who has the power to access and who has the power to interpret the past. And figures like Salim Tamari, Salman Abu Sitta, Walid Khalidi have long underscored the political role of documentation, especially in relation to the Nakba and the right of return. Others, including Bashar al-Dumani, Mizna Kato, Tamar al-Rayan, and Rana Barakat, have long advanced more critical community-based approaches that challenge institutional and settler colonial frameworks. These conversations aren't just academic. They are embedded in everyday Palestinian life. Digital memory projects, often emerging from grassroots practices of remembrance and resistance, offer more participatory models of archiving that include oral histories, family collections, photographs, and everyday objects. These archives live within communities, refusing static or state-controlled narratives. While today's internet is dominated by corporate platforms and surveillance systems, many of these projects still draw from early ideals of decentralization, open access, and collective agency. Though often precarious, they offer vital spaces for Palestinian presence, memory, and futurity, countering the settler colonial logic that frames Palestine as a thing of the past. However, this is not to retreat into the digital. I'm not placing all faith in technology. Rather, it's a recognition that in the face of genocide and displacement, these platforms act as sites of resistance for grounding life, solidarity, and continuity. As powerful as grassroots digital archives are, they also introduce a key challenge of abundance. This is something that I've run into time and time again with some of these projects. These platforms hold a vast amount of content, which, while valuable, can become overwhelming, especially for new users. And it raises a critical question: when does an archive's richness become a barrier to engagement? The volume of the material can be intimidating, requiring a level of digital literacy and time investment that not everyone has access to. Its size reflects the scale of the Palestinian experience, but it can also disorient or exclude. At the same time, the user-driven nature of these platforms mean that they can sometimes circulate misinformation or reproduce harmful narratives. And this openness allows for a wide participation, but it also reveals the limits of digital space. Operating within a global digital ecosystem shaped by corporate interests, data extraction, and surveillance, these archives are vulnerable to censorship and other forms of control. Yet, despite these risks, I want to add, they still remain vital spaces. In a context where visibility, memory, and narratives are deeply contested, the need for dissent and for spaces where Palestinian voices and histories can be shared on their own terms remains incredibly urgent. The tensions I've listed do not negate the value of these projects, but rather underscores the need for ongoing critical engagement with how such platforms are curated, moderated, and protected. Oh, sorry about that. It's gone a bit skew-whiff. So many of these early Palestinian websites, archival projects, can still be accessed through the Wayback Machine. which is a tool that archives snapshots of websites over time. And exploring these archived websites reveals how different platforms have built upon each other, creating a kind of informal digital lineage. For instance, this the website, so Cyber Palestine, actually informed Palestine remembered.com, which actually was deeply influenced by Walid Khaledi's book, landmark book, All That Remains, which is, it was a book that basically documented all the villages and towns that were depopulated during 48. These digital platforms not only preserved Khaledi's work, but they also extended its reach, transforming historical research into accessible, interactive public memory projects. Okay. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the Across Borders project, which is one of the earliest initiatives that sought to create almost like satellite projects across different refugee camps, to connect refugee camps online. So it was launched in 1999 by the Information Technology Unit at Birzeit University. And the Across Borders project represents a foundational effort to use digital technologies to reconnect fragmented Palestinian communities across borders. Emerging in the aftermath of the Oslo Accords and during a period of deepening displacement and disillusionment, the project established internet centres and refugee camps across the West Bank, Gaza, Jordan, Lebanon, and Syria. These centres provided rare access to the internet, then unavailable to the majority of Palestinian households, and offered basic ICT training. The Across Borders project, which the sites were mostly bilingual, hosted oral histories, community news, and refugee narratives, creating a virtual space for Palestinians to share experiences of exile, identity, and resistance. More than a technological intervention, the project was a political and cultural response to fragmentation, aiming to restore connection, foster collective memory, and resist erasure. In doing so, Across Borders laid important groundwork for what would become a broader movement of digital resistance, where online platforms serve not only as repositories of memory, but also as active sites for community building, self-representation, and imagining a return. So I'm going to jump forward in time now to one of the more recent projects, Palestine Open Maps. It's a contemporary digital mapping project that plays a crucial role in resisting settler colonial narratives by visualizing both historical and present-day geographies of Palestine. Built from digitized British Mandate era maps, originally created from colonial administration, the site reclaims these documents by foregrounding Palestinian place names and landscapes erased or renamed by Israel. Through an interactive interface, users can search for depopulated villages such as Al-Maliha, attacked in 1948, and view historical overlays alongside present-day satellite imagery. So this is Al-Maliha here, and that's it in present day. And you can, basically, it's a slider, so you can kind of shift to see how the landscape has changed. This juxtaposition reveals how Palestinian land has been built over, often with large shopping centres, tech parks, or Israeli suburbs. In the case of Al-Maliha, the land now hosts Malha Technology Park, where Ex Libris or Clarivate, a major supplier of global academic library software, is headquartered. This geographic visibility has informed growing boycotts, such as the one led by librarians and archivists for Palestine, which highlights the complicity of institutions using Clarivate products. For instance, the University of Sussex like many universities worldwide, uses ex libris systems, an example of how such structures of colonial harm can operate through seemingly neutral academic infrastructures. Beyond documentation, Palestine Open Maps also fostered community involvement through mapathons, where participants enriched the maps with historical data and narratives. These efforts reasserted Palestinian knowledge systems, place names, and histories, and connected the past with the present while imagining a future return. By offering a tool for pedagogy, activism, and archival reclamation, Palestine Open Maps supports a broader vision of Palestinian futurism, one that challenges erasure, asserts presence, and mobilizes digital tools for collective action. So the next community archive we'll be talking about is Khaza'in, which is a grassroots Palestinian social history archive based in Sheikh Jarrah. It's the photo of the postcard was from there. They have both a digital and a physical presence. It offers an alternative model for archiving that resists Western institutional frameworks by centering community-led memory work, lived experience, and relational storytelling. The name Khaza'in, meaning cabinets in Arabic, shapes the structure of the project. Each contributor has been given a personalized digital cabinet and physical cabinet, if they wish, to store and share documents, photographs, refugee cards, ephemera, stories. These individual collections together form a collective dynamic archive that grows from within the community it serves. More than a repository, Khaza'in functions as a regenerative space, one shaped by the realities and priorities of Palestinian life. As one archivist noted to me, the aim is not to replicate Western archival methodologies or models, but to create something that is rooted very much in Palestinian ways of thinking and remembering and surviving and knowing. So, yeah. And this was particularly evident in the story of one of the people who donated their collection, who I'll refer to as Janine, a refugee whose family was displaced in 1948. Her cabinet traces their journey from Palestine to a refugee camp in Lebanon. And when speaking with Janine, she told me that contributing to the archive was a symbolic act of a return for her, an assertion of belonging in the face of repeated uprooting. She described sending her family's documents to Khaza'in as a way to resist erasure, a form of presence when physical return remains out of reach. Khaza'in also extends beyond the digital realm. As I said earlier, it hosts public events that blur the line between archiving and community building. I think that's really interesting and important to note. It doesn't just exist online. Because such research talks, cultural gatherings, and musical evenings, they're not simply additions to the archive. They are the archive, they're part of it, it's embodied, and it's an intergenerational expression of Palestinian continuity and resistance. In this way, Khaza'in becomes a space where memory is not only preserved, but lived and shared and carried forward, offering a model of archival sovereignty grounded in collective care and a refusal of settler colonial destruction. These digital platforms, as I've discussed, it's been a bit of a whistle-stop tour, so I'm sorry about that. If I'd had more time, I would have gone through a lot more, but they don't offer singular or polished narratives, I want to add. Instead, as grassroots user-driven spaces, they embrace complexity, contradiction, multiplicity, allowing for diverse visions of Palestine to coexist. And though some platforms draw from shared sources, like All That Remains, or the Mandate era maps, this continuity is not repetition in my view, but more of a process of layering and reinterpreting, where archival material becomes part of an evolving conversation. In this sense, their unfinished or open-ended nature is a strength. It creates space for new generations to engage, to revise, and to resist. These sites are not without their challenges, of course, especially in the context of surveillance, as I mentioned earlier, or censorship and digital precarity. But their significance lies precisely in their collective participatory structure, which enables connection, fosters solidarity, and imagines alternatives to settler colonial timelines. Importantly, these projects don't exist in isolation. They're mutually reinforcing, in a state of becoming, an ongoing process rather than a fixed product. And I've not aimed to define their emancipatory potential in absolute terms, but to highlight how they disrupt linear colonial narratives and activate memory as a future-oriented social force. So rather seeing internal tensions or contradictions as flaws, we can understand them as reflections of Palestinian life under occupation and in exile, going through genocide, marked by fragmentation, but also by creativity and persistence. These digital spaces offer not only tools for documentation, but platforms for resistance, imagination, and the continued insistence of Palestinian presence and futurity. And finally, as I said, due to time constraints, I can't cover all of the sites that I would have liked to today, but I will encourage you to explore a few on your own, such as the Palestine Oral History Archive, based at the American University of Beirut. Palestine Oral History Archive preserves personal testimonies that document the lived experiences of Palestinian refugees across multiple generations in Lebanon. The Terza'in Tatriz Pattern Archive, which is dedicated to documenting and celebrating traditional Palestinian embroidery patterns as cultural heritage. You have Majaz Archive, which is an initiative focused on preserving Palestinian music and soundscapes as part of cultural memory. Of course, you have the Palestinian Museum Digital Archive, comprehensive digital repository that brings together Palestinian art, history, and culture. PalestineMemory.org, a grassroots platform that documents Palestinian histories through photograph stories and community contributions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Freya. And yes, you can present to academic audiences very well, please. None of that anymore. So well done. Alex. Oh, well, look at this.
Hi there, thanks for coming. And thank you to Freya and Clara, who've both been instrumental in our project. So it's great that you're both here. Okay, so today I'm going to tell you about our project, the Accountability Archive, a little bit of its history, how it works, and future uses of the data that we've collected. There's our previous Foreign Secretary, David Lammy, hoping to foreshadow some of the material that we've gathered. Okay, so a brief history. We started in October 2023. We were on a train up to one of the protests in London from Brighton. So these are my co-founders, Philip Proudfoot, who's a fellow at IDS here, and also Mehdi Zaidan, who works at IDS as well and is doing a PhD at King's. We were on a train, and I think, you know, everyone at that point was understanding what was happening. It didn't take long for the full genocidal force to unleash. And we were talking about, you know, we needed to do more. We needed to do something that would matter. We needed to be able to somehow have an impact other than just marching and showing up with our bodies. And we started talking about documenting the rhetoric that was coming out from power holders. So at that point, the genocidal rhetoric was flowing thick and fast, although we knew what was happening was going to be terrible and already was terrible. I don't think any of us understood that this would be going on for 2 years. I was particularly aware, I grew up in the US, so I was thinking about, when I was coming to political consciousness, it was the Iraq and Afghan wars. There were, all sorts of terrible things being said in the media when I was growing up that never were accounted for. Never, there was no reckoning. Those people are still in the media now. They're still, in politics. And I thought that can't happen again here. And so we started talking about ways that we could make sure that there was a record. And Philip was coincidentally had been speaking with a colleague about the fragility of digital evidence, of digital materials. We think of the internet as forever, but actually, when you move jobs, all of your emails get deleted. It used to be that you had letters that you wrote to people, and those would get bundled and saved. And actually, the physical materials are much easier to preserve in some ways. And so we went home that night after speaking about this on the train, and we set up a Twitter account at Archive Genocide, because at that point, we knew what it was. Everyone knew what it was. And we set up a humble Google form, which we quickly learned was not sufficient for what we were trying to do. First of all, people had to log in. If they wanted to upload materials, they had to log in with a Google account, and then they were named, and that made lots of people uncomfortable. So the premise that we came up with was that there was far more material out there globally than the three of us could possibly cover and collate. And so we wanted to make it open source. So the Google form was meant to kind of address this, to allow people everywhere to submit materials. It didn't work for a whole variety of reasons. People were skeptical about Google even allowing that material to exist on its platform without destroying it. And so by October 31st, we had our wonderful web developer, who I will preserve his identity, reach out and say that he was willing to build us a bespoke platform. And he did that extremely quickly, and it's been tweaked over the last 2 years. But yeah, we had to build our own web scraping tool to document all of the data that was coming in. Okay, so the problem. As I said, digital evidence is incredibly fragile, particularly when we're talking about subjects like genocide. Much of the evidence will be against the terms of service of those platforms, whether it's the pro-genocidal rhetoric that we were interested in capturing that can, should fall afoul of hate speech terms of service, but also the graphic content of the video footage of the things that are being posted means that social media companies, for their own liability, will delete those and kind of store them in a black box somewhere in the back of their system that then only law enforcement can access. And we saw this in 2017 in Libya, where people were documenting war crimes in Libya, uploading it to YouTube, and then all of that, thinking that they would be able to get this out to the world, and then YouTube would censor it, and it was gone. And it took a very long time for anybody to be able to get those recordings back. The second problem is that political memory is short and impunity is maintained at all levels. So like I said, all of those people who were complicit in the Iraq war are still there. There's a revolving door between our media class and our political class, and they're all in the business of protecting one another. We don't have a proper oppositional media class, particularly not here in the UK. And these are the sort of things that we were seeing at the time that we wanted to begin documenting. So, this is actually a wide range of things throughout the last 2 years, but we wanted to, document outright calls for violence against Palestinians, things like violations of specific IHL, so like collective punishment. That was a big one that was happening very early on. The war will end when the hostages are released. That's a very common phrase, but it's actually a violation of Article 33. you cannot punish civilian populations to reach political or military ends. So things like, I don't want to see a single penny of British taxpayers' money spent on the reconstruction of Gaza until every Hamas terrorist is either dead or in jail. I don't care about the broader politics. Things like, when you release the hostages, until then continue suffering. Excuse me. So this article in the middle was in November 2023, so very early on. It was talking talking about the Indonesian hospital. And as you can see at the bottom, most agree that the Indonesian hospital is now empty of patients and is simply being used by Hamas to wage war. Taking it down with an airstrike to finish the fighting must surely be tempting. This was in the Telegraph. Excuse me, I'm getting over a chest infection. There was side-by-side image with this article coming out of, I think it was one of the humanitarian organizations showing their people inside the hospital, their doctors treating people at the time that this article came out. So we had an immediate refutation of this blatant call for violence against protected infrastructure. These were the sorts of things that we were trying to collect. And the strategy was to basically create a funnel. So we went out to the world and we said, these are the things we're looking for. We created a list that we put on our website of all the different types of things to inspire them to go out and see what their local politicians were saying, and then enter that data into our tool. And then we would sort it out later. We thought this would be over in months. We had no idea what we were getting ourselves into. And on the back end, we would do the hard work of analyzing and cleaning the data to make it usable for later publication. Part of that strategy was we had to have an aggressive social media presence. So we started the Twitter account, we grew extremely rapidly. And you can see here, so the gray line represents our Twitter followers over time. We're now over like 83,000 Twitter followers. And you can see that the number of entries in the system tracks pretty steadily with that. And I'll talk about, I tried to not take Freya's comments about like the glut of data in these archives as like a personal attack. I'm kidding. She has to deal with it. So, so these were some of the categories that we asked people to enter. Dehumanization of the Palestinian people. There were lots of like AI produced images of Palestinians as rats, cockroaches, that sort of thing. Calls for further persecution of Palestinians in Palestine or the diaspora, things like banning visas in countries, whatever it is, that sort of thing. Calls for forced displacement or ethnic cleansing into other parts of the world. Justification for targeting civilian infrastructure, targeting civilian populations, protected subjects. And then also crucially, defamation of individual pro-Palestinian advocates. And that was really key because we wanted to create a repository to help people in their legal fights against people who had defamed them later on when the tide was turning. Okay, this is what our website looks like. I don't know how many of you have been there. So this is just the front page. We have a little bit about who we are on the left, and then, the text needs updating when I get to it. We have the submission form here. You enter a link. It takes you through the next steps of what you need to do. And then we put the guidelines and the list of categories below there. Links to other regions. Those are recent additions. I'll talk about that in a bit. And then on the back end, so what happens is people enter a link, they're prompted to enter it into a third-party archiving source like archive.today or the Wayback Machine. So we get a third-party copy of whatever link that they've put in. And then we save both that link, and then our system also independently takes a screenshot of the website in its entirety, but also it downloads any media files attached to that post or that article, whatever it is. So if there's a video or a picture, we scrape that individually. So we have a copy of that media as well. So the analysis is involved, and Freya can probably tell you a little bit about it as well because she's been doing it. So the analysis involves verification of the user entered data that you're prompted when you enter a link to add things like the author, the date, the location, and also the language that the post is in. So the analysts check that that's all correct. They then check that the content actually meets the criteria. We're interested in power holders. Like, we're not interested in posts from random bots or, you know, everyday humans. We're not the group that's out there doing like the doxing of people, right? Like, we're not going to try to replicate Canary Mission or what is it, like stopping anti-Semitism, that account that goes out and like publishes people's workplaces and things like that. We're going after the people who can influence public policy or public opinion. So they check that it meets the criteria. It's one of these things. Oftentimes people will enter articles that are just factual but make them really angry, and I understand the impulse, but we're looking for things that are actually like journalistic malfeasance. And then they clean, tag, and categorize the data. So if the screenshot hasn't worked, they take another screenshot. We have like all sorts of themes that we add, and we kind of do like a rolling like addition to the thematic analysis, because as the genocide has gone on, it's entered different phases. The Hasbara, the propaganda has taken on new forms, and so we have to kind of change the themes as the narrative changed. And then the other change was that the geography changed as well, and it spread from Gaza to the West Bank to Lebanon to Yemen to Iran, and we had to kind of think how and when we were going to engage with the spreading violence. A little over a year ago now, there was the Israeli terror attack in Lebanon with the pagers. We quickly decided that we needed to add a form for Lebanon specifically because the intent was different there, the shape of the warfare was different there, the narratives were different, particularly in a kind of global perspective. It wasn't exactly the same. Lebanon occupies like a very specific, different place in I think the kind of like the Western media's lens. And so we updated the criteria. We put a separate form. I think lots of the data got put in the original form, and we're going to have to clean that out at some point. And we wound up collecting a little over 1,000 posts, specifically about the Lebanon attacks and the invasion in the south. Yemen, we weren't exactly sure when, but at a certain point when the strikes on Yemen intensified, we updated to have a form about justifying violence on civilian targets in Yemen. Similarly, in this previous summer, we added one for Iran when the missile exchanges began. And those data sets are smaller, they're more manageable, they're easier to publish in some ways. So they're good exercises, but they're not as complete in terms of the data that we've collected. Impact. So we've created the largest data set of global complicity in existence, I think. I'll talk a little bit about the problem of how much data we've collected, but it's a lot. It's over 90,000 entries globally. To deal with this, we've started giving early access to partners who can use the data now and as part of their efforts. I don't want to get too into the weeds of who's using it for what, but you know, if you can think of it, they're probably on the back end using the data. But I think also crucially, it's a means of staving off feelings of powerlessness. I think so many of us feel like there's so little we can do in our daily lives, and this is something you can do. Like, you feel like you've achieved something when you've submitted a link and you know that it's gone somewhere for posterity. So this is one of our followers who posted this to social media, talking about how she's disabled and she can't go to the marches. But this is like I cannot count how many individual links she has put in. She's gone above and beyond. And this is really something that she feels allows her to contribute in a meaningful sense. So the new problem, we have too much data. It's horrifying. I thought by now the amount of just like explicitly genocidal rhetoric would have gone down due to shame or the, turning tides of public opinion. But the impunity continues and people feel confident to continue posting absolutely deranged, bloodthirsty things. So we have over 90,000 submissions. I think I took the screenshot this morning. So that's a pretty up-to-date count. You can see a ticker on the website that shows how many entries we have. It means that the analysis is lagging far behind the amount of submissions. So we first tasked Freja with doing all of the US data. So we thought that would be kind of, at the time we had enough money, so we don't get paid for this, but we think our analysts should get paid, people doing the kind of boring daily tasks. So we tried to crowdfund a little bit of money to pay the people who go through and tag day to day. We had enough money to do, at the time, the US data. Obviously that grew and is now far beyond our means. How far did you get through? Like,
I can't even.
You got past the encampments, right?
So like it's honestly it's endless. Yeah.
I mean, can I say something?
Yeah,
Because
please.
I think one of the things that's happening during the genocide is that we are overwhelmed, right? We are overwhelmed in so many ways. We are overwhelmed by the violence. It's like, could you even imagine that violence was actually possible? We're overwhelmed by the wickedness. Could you even imagine that people were thinking that far into tricking other people into situation or erasing other people? We are overwhelmed by the impunity that we are seeing. It's like, could you even imagine that people that can do those things then can walk around without any problem and get jets into other countries and not being deported? And when you are looking through this, I mean, this is not a normal job. I mean, there are papers and papers of moderators or people that look at data that has emotional content. We know that. That one, we study work in this school, right? That's one of the most difficult works, moderating social media accounts or, because you are exposed and people that did or, vet this kind of data, they're all exposed to incredibly emotionally demanding content.
Yeah.
Right?
Like the most unimaginable stuff has been posted that I've seen. But I kept in touch with Alex quite regularly and we had lots of conversations which were really helpful. But yeah, it's I can't tell you how unimaginable it really, how horrific it is and how endless it is. Yeah.
Yeah, we
Yeah. I have to step
Yeah,
back all the time and like,
thank you so much for
Yeah, thank you.
It's great. Yeah, that's Alex. Yeah, should we do Q&A or do you?
I've just got a couple more slides, but so just a little bit about what we're doing in the future. So we just got a small grant from a Lebanese digital rights foundation called SMEX. We're actually going out end of this month to do a conference for them on the back of the grant they gave us. And that was to help us securitize our system. So we got some pen testing done to make sure that, it's safe. And in the future, we're going to work on, we're currently working on doing like image to text and speech to text transcriptions of the data so that we can have, in addition to the actual files, just text that you can do language modeling with. And it will allow researchers to do more large-scale analysis automatically. Grant applications to deal with the volume of data we've collected. Philip has been working really hard on some amazing grant applications, some in conjunction with AUB and the Fighting Erasure project. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we can potentially do some work with them. Research, we're trying to figure out what is like a discrete amount of data we can get through to actually begin publishing some research on what we've collected. I think people are very anxious for us to start publishing, understandably. So we'd at least like to get out there with some thematic analysis, things like that. And then, yeah, as I said, in the future, publication once we figure out the safest and most effective way of doing that. Thank you.
So yeah, what can I say? I mean, this so this is possibly the 7th of these events that we do, and every time by the end of it, I feel overwhelmed by the amount of knowledge, passion the people put into Palestine. So thank you very much to all the participants for that. Any questions? Yes.
Yeah, I have a question for Alex and Freya. Oh, sorry. I have a question for Alex and Freya as to whether or not any of the online forms of these archives have been targeted through the Online Safety Act, especially if there is data that's explicitly hate speech, which is targeted under that recent ban.
Not to my knowledge.
Not to my knowledge. I mean, I've kept in very not to my knowledge. I've kept in regular contact with a few community archives about this. They've been fine so far. As for the digital, some of the digital ones that I was showing you that exist on the Wayback Machine, that some of them are still in existence. I have no idea about those ones. I wouldn't be surprised, basically. Yeah.
I do know that there was a long period that the Internet Archive, the Wayback Machine, was down from hackers. There was a few months of that where we couldn't access the Internet Archive. Yeah, but that's nothing from the current legislation.
Nimi, thanks.
I just a follow-up question, because that was such a great question, actually. Have you guys been thinking about like digital security in a very kind of systematic way? Because I suppose after the attack on the physical, the spiritual, the social, and the cultural infrastructure of a people, the next logical step is the digital.
Yeah, so as I said, as part of the recent grant we got, part of that was doing a kind of security well-being checkup, and we're fingers crossed pretty okay. And we're also, I mean, we're constantly extremely paranoid about having backups and backups and backups of backups, and sharing wherever we can and doing the demos.
Hi, great work. My question is to Alex, just because I attended your talk. Do you get approached by news organizations for their research material?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, all the time. Often they don't want to go through the archive, they want us to go through it for them.
Yes, that's the problem.
Yeah, news outlets approach us all the time, often asking for specific things and asking us to chase it down, which I'll do if it's reasonable. Yeah, all the time.
Is Gaza available for a question, or is it just
Ghada, you available or?
Yes, I'm here. Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah.
Hi. Yeah, I just had a question about what really struck me about your talk was the erasure of more physical traditional archives from people in Palestine, but at the same time we're seeing then a massive outreach of a sort of new form of archiving and archival methodologies, which is through the citizen journalism and media and more digital, more informal forms of archiving. So I guess I'm wondering what you think about, I guess, the future of archival practices, given the destruction of the more traditional methodologies, and if you're seeing some sort of, yeah, I think that's my question. Yeah.
Yeah. So Today I was writing about this, by the way, about the future of our archive. I think that what happened in Gaza and Lebanon and the scale of destruction of the cultural heritage in Gaza, libraries, archives, made us see it's made us see the truth that archives are being controlled, and people, as you said, they turned to be journalists, and they started to document their own war from inside Gaza, and they are challenging the imperial or the colonial authority, and for me, we will have the future of archive will be more free from colonization, let's say, and with the digital infrastructure, with the AI. I guess there will be more space for people to have to tell their narrative, to preserve their narrative, and make it available for people everywhere.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gaza. We have 3 more questions.
Thank you. I have a question, Freja, maybe. So we have seen initiatives to document the genocide, the complicity. Are there any initiatives to document solidarity campaign resisting the genocide? Have you seen any of these initiatives?
Sorry, I missed the question.
Are there initiatives to also document solidarity effectively through archives?
Solidarity, yeah, for Palestine.
Solidarity camp. Yes, that's a good
I
question.
think Gaza's got an answer maybe as well. Freya, after you, you know.
You can go first.
Gaza, you have an answer, right? Because
yes. Okay.
Some of
So
your stuff was about solidarity, right?
yes, we do document and collect solidarity campaigns. As I said, it's huge. Every aspect of the war was collected. Protests, student protests were also been traced and collected. Boycotts campaign were also traced and documented. Even we were able to document the Israeli narrative. Israeli influencers, journalists, their media, let's say like the famous Afichai Adrai, who used to always send warnings for Lebanese people. His page was also documented and archived. So every single aspect related to the war is being documented. Even like Alex was talking about, the Yemen war, the Iraq war, Syria also was going on in Syria. It is part of this huge war, was also traced and documented.
Yeah, so as far as I'm aware, the encampment archive, the encampments across the UK have been archiving materials from the ongoings of well, across the UK anyway. I'm aware of that. I'm not sure about the US encampments. I know that Gaza has a particular arm which focuses on solidarity. So they're very active in also recording kind of not just local, but also on an international level, so posters and things like that. There's also there's the Palestine poster project, which has been going on for years and years, and that's documenting global solidarities with Palestine, posters that have been created in global solidarity with Palestine. As for the Palestine Solidarity Campaign, I'm not aware when I've spoken with them about any archiving efforts of their own materials. But yeah.
Thank you so much. Good question. Another one here. Thank you, Jane.
Can I express my admiration for all the speakers for wonderful presentations? And quite rightly, I see why much of your preoccupation is with Gaza at the moment. But I have spent the last 3 months with a Palestinian graduate student looking at the encroachment in the settlements. And I was just wanted to ask you if you've got any material that, I mean, and I also have an empathy with each of you saying, what can I do? And I'm actually an econometrician. All my skills are technical skills, but I wanted to know what I could do. And then I have a student come to me saying, I want to study this. So we're looking statistically at what's the effect of the settlement encroachments on aspects of Palestinian people and their lives in a statistical way. But we're meeting problems associated with actually mapping how these settlements have changed and what those consequences are in terms of sort of GIS data and other things. So if any of you have any interest in this or can help me, please get in contact with me. But meanwhile, to the speakers, have you any data that's ongoing on the current situation with the settlements and the encroachment?
Freya, I think. Yeah, Freya.
There's tons. I mean, you have Visualizing Palestine. So their campaign is specifically, I mean, they've done a lot on the encroachment of the settlements, and what they do is they visualize the data. So it's really accessible.
In terms of GIS maps?
No, that's forensic architecture.
Oh, that's forensic architecture does that as well. And they're based at Goldsmiths.
And they're really amazing.
Yeah.
Like.
Okay, I need to talk.
And also you mentioned the map archives, right?
Yeah, so Palestine Open Maps as well, that they work a lot with satellite GIS.
Yeah, but forensic architecture are your people, really.
So
and
yeah, I would say.
And the maps that you, which I didn't know, the one that you spoke about.
Yeah, Palestine Open Maps.
Palestine Open Maps.
Yeah, I think the people you want to talk to is forensic architecture.
Okay, thank you.
So, yeah.
I want to add something also that at Fighting Erasure, we're also working on this topic. It's one of our sub-projects, and it's led by Dr. Rami Zre. They are collecting aerial photos, and they are coordinating data collection through field work in the West Bank directly. They are working, I think, with an organization called Erasure in the West Bank. And they are studying the expansion of settlement and its impact on the land, environment, and the people. And they are also using the GIS tool. And there's also at the AUB, the Urban Lab. I think they also worked on the settlement expansion. There are several departments at AUB working on this. But at Fighting Erasure with Dr. Rami Zre, they are leading this now, and they have made a huge progress. I can also put you in contact with them if you want.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Can you put the name of that professor on the chat so that we give him to our guest here very quickly?
Another lead that might be useful, I don't know if you're looking at Bedouin communities at all, but and how they're being affected by settlement expansion. But when I was working with the Palestinian Museum Digital Archive, they were talking about how they had a lot of data to do with Misafeliata, which is a Bedouin community. And they were in partnership with Coventry University and their media lab. So that might also be another lead.
Super. Thank you so much.
Any more questions? Well, thank you very much, everyone. Every time I do one of these, I say this is the most interesting one we've done so far. It's because there is so much depth and so much interest and so much passion. So, Ghada, Dimashq, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Alex, thank you so much for all you're doing. And the person that is really managing the hardest emotional work here is Freya. Thank you so much, Freja. Amazing, amazing work. And thank you so much for coming. And I had circulating a little piece of paper where you can put down your, we want to turn into a network and we want to have a mailing list. And it has stopped there, but I don't know if it's gone around. So if you want to put your
Just p.dolt.
also family.
D-O-L-T.
Oh wow, look how many people want to be with us. Great, they don't, no one's gonna write the name. So yeah, so and I don't know when you're gonna receive my first email, but we are in the process of creating a network and hopefully having a mailing list and hopefully. But for now, we are relying on very old things. So this is the second event we're gonna have and 22nd.
No.
So you back in Palestine. So basically, I go to West actually, that's probably what it is.
I'd like to simply we've got a Patreon, so I see notes.
I mean, I just.